A woman says she was harassed in downtown Portland for work job, and now the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, is saying Portland police did not take her report seriously. According to CAIR, the woman was walking home from Portland State University when a man ran up to her, stuck out his middle fingers, and spit at the ground. Well, the organization says that when the woman called Portland police to report the harassment, the officer told her if PPB reacted to everyone who had gotten their feelings hurt, they would have to quote, arrest everyone in Portland. Well, officials with CAIR say the harassment and the officer's response to the event have now even traumatized the woman. We did reach out to Portland police. It said it is looking into the woman's complaint. The Bureau also says it takes bias crimes very seriously and is reaching out to CAIR about that particular situation.
2 men accused of road rage flipped a family the bird, then nearly rams them off of I-85 in Atlanta. The culprits were caught on tape, and the victim claims it was all because she was wearing a hijab. Tonight, CAIR, Georgia's nonprofit council American Islamic Relations, is calling on DeKalb County Police to locate and arrest the driver and the passenger of this white pickup truck. Watch closely. It has a huge dent on the passenger side. The agency is also asking for the public's help in identifying the passenger, although we're not giving you a good view of him right there. The family says that he flipped the bird and then laughed as the pickup sped off. The victims have filed a police report and identified the pickup's license plate number as
Do you recognize this person? Video taken Tuesday night shows the man D.C. police say threatened people who advocate for Muslim Americans. New tonight, News 4's Corey Smith explains what witnesses say set the man off.
From the surveillance footage taken inside the Council on American Islamic Relations, the suspect seems calm, mild-mannered. But it's what you can't hear that alarmed the staff.
When he was asked to leave the building, he actually shouted out, "Islam sucks."
CAIR's Director of Government Affairs, Robert McCall, was one of 2 employees who confronted the suspect that afternoon and tried to get him to leave. He says the man was outraged over this post on CAIR's Facebook page, calling for Anne Arundel Councilman John Grasso to step down after he shared an anti-Muslim meme on Facebook. The man ultimately relents and leaves the building. But McCall says it's what he did next that disturbed CAIR employees so much that they called police.
And then did the throat cutting motion to another CAIR staffer, which we saw very much as a threat.
Following this most recent attack, McCall says the organization has enhanced its security, but it's not backing down from its mission. So let's go ahead and give you one last look at the suspect police are looking for. Anyone who has information is asked to contact police. Crime Stoppers is offering a $1,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest and an indictment.
A Muslim woman in Jackson is speaking out tonight after she claims she was attacked because of her religion. Police say a group of teen boys yelled out derogatory comments at her while shooting off fireworks.
It was infuriating, and it was also pretty scary at the same time.
Yasira Nelson was walking down North Street near Edgewood in her Jackson neighborhood when she says she heard what sounded like gunshots.
It was a loud pop, and then they yelled, and then it was pop, pop.
Nelson was wearing her hijab.
I thought somebody was shooting at me for the sake of me being Muslim. Then I heard someone yell Muslim, and then I heard 2 more loud pops, followed by Ali Akbar.
Jackson Director of Police and Fire Elmer Hitt tells me those pops were fireworks, and the people responsible, 13-year-old boys.
Any ethnic group or racial group or a religion that may be threatened or in any way, we take that serious, regardless of what that may be. And we are taking this serious, and I feel we have taken the proper steps, and the proper investigation was conducted that day to verify exactly what had transpired, and again, it is now in the prosecutor's hands to review it.
Nelson now calling for those teens to be charged with a hate crime.
It is a hate crime. They tried to intimidate me, they tried to frighten me, they terrorized me.
And demanding an apology. Nelson's attorney from the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, telling me they will fight this in the court system.
We have a system in which juvenile offenders are dealt with in a manner that's different from adult offenders. We're not asking that they be charged as an adult, but we are asking that these children have some consequences for their actions.
First tonight on Fox, we have exclusive video tonight of someone spraying graffiti at a downtown mosque. The nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group wants Charleston police to consider the possibility of a bias motive.
Tonight, the Council on American Islamic Relations tells me cases like this one raises real concern.
When you have people, or if you have people in your community who hold bigoted views, often it moves beyond vandalism to other kinds of incidents.
The nationwide Muslim and civil rights advocacy group says graffiti on a wall could turn into something more serious.
Given the fact that we've seen so many incidents targeting mosques, churches, synagogues, Sikh temples and other houses of worship around the country, we just thought it was important law enforcement authorities at least consider the possibility of a bias motive when they're doing the investigation.
Charleston police weren't available for an on-camera interview.
We make a big deal out of small situations. It's just a little bit of paint on the side of a mosque.
That's Michael Griffin. He attends the mosque across the street from the Islamic Center of Charleston.
I don't think she needs to spend any time in jail. We know how much it costs to incarcerate people, and there's really no long-term benefit in her going to jail just for a little bit of spray paint on the side of a building.
Police say Riddle spray painted this message on the side of the building. Police charged Riddle with malicious injury to a place of worship, but her attorney told ABC News 4 exclusively there was nothing malicious about it.
I want the community to understand that what she spray painted was utterly blessed in pink and purple writing. It was in no way a derogatory term.
He says he knows because he immediately polygraphed Riddle 3 times as soon as he took her case.
She had no intent to deface a religious center. We polygraphed her on that very issue. She had no idea before or during this incident that it was the Islamic Center or a place of worship.
Today, the judge gave Riddle a $5,000 surety bond, an act that Riddle's attorney said was entirely appropriate.
We left a message for the Islamic Center but have not heard back yet. We also spoke to the Council on American Islamic Relations. They thank police for the swift and professional actions and welcome this arrest.
You are bigots. And by the way, if you vote with them, you're a liar. Bigots.
You're a liar.
Okay, no, you're a bigot.
You're a liar.
They were literally terrorizing the folks that were attending that candidate forum.
And they tried to remove hijab for 2 of our ladies, and which is a violation. This is a hate crime when you do that.
Well, it started out as a forum for candidates running for Congress in the Antelope Valley, but things quickly turned nasty. The event was sponsored by the American Islamic Institute in Palmdale.
A small group in the audience started shouting anti-Muslim comments and even threatened to pull the hijabs off several women. Eventually, sheriff deputies had to be called in to calm things down. The Council on American Islamic Relations is now calling for a hate crime investigation.
Well, sheriff's deputies had to be called in to make sure things didn't turn violent.
Next speaker is going to be the captain of the Palmdale Sheriff Station, Ron Schaefer. Please give him a round of applause.
I am Ron Schaefer. I'm the captain of Palmdale Sheriff Station. So on Saturday, February 1st, 2020, at about 5:50 p.m., Palmdale Station was dispatched to call for service regarding a large fight at the mosque at 1125 East Palmdale Boulevard. The caller described an incident of a large, unruly crowd, 100 plus people being violent. 8 deputies were dispatched to the call with the first units arriving within 2 minutes. Deputies contacted Mr. Kamal Al-Khatib. They learned the meeting was a congressional candidate forum held at the American Islamic Institute, which was hosted by the Council on American Islamic Relations. During the forum, members of the audience became vocal about the comments being made by the panelists. Efforts by the forum moderator and candidates to enforce the rules of decorum were unsuccessful in retaining order at the meeting. Deputies were called to quell the disruption. At the time, there was no allegation of crimes occurring during the event. Deputies advised the organizers the options were to continue the event or shut it down. The organizers chose to shut down the event, and deputies stood by while the venue was cleared. Several people were contacted and no alleged crimes had occurred. No information about crimes are relayed at the moment of responding to this call. A complaint was lodged with Palmdale Station regarding the department's response and the incident, believing a hate crime had occurred, and law enforcement action was not taken. particularly arrests made being of the audience members. The complaint review is still underway. The initial findings after talking with numerous witnesses that there was no hate crime. There's a difference between a crime and an incident. A report was written on a hate incident. That's where language is used that is offensive, but it does not rise to the level of a crime. Palmdale Station is committed to
You are bigots.
visiting and traveling through our community. We respect the political process.
For the last 20 years, the Lebanese Butcher in Warrenton has been the place to go for local Muslims looking to celebrate Eid al-Adha.
Just a big festival for, a lot of Muslim families to come together.
But last week, the town of Warrenton threw that business a curveball.
Everything up until about Friday was normal.
That was when the police department blocked the business's driveway with its cruisers.
With the officers being there, people were showing up, people were being turned down at the gate, right up at the street. They stop in the middle of the street.
The business said it always got the right permits in time to handle all the customers who show up to the event. But when they tried to this year, they were told things had changed and that they had sought the permits too late. The Lebanese Butcher also said Warrenton failed to inform the business in a timely manner that it had zoning violations. The situation ultimately led the Butcher to seek the help of the Council on American Islamic Relations.
This place being shut down or it being closed, it poses a big void to the community, and it threatens, their ability to basically fulfill their religious obligations.
Eventually, Monday evening, CAIR came to an agreement with the town to end the blockade. The Lebanese Butcher just hopes things stay that way.
It's a government agency, entity. You'd expect for them to fulfill, their honor.
The town's attorney released a statement saying Warrenton has always tried to bring the business into compliance when it comes to zoning, but eventually there has to be a line. The business told me it plans to work with the town on that issue. From Warrenton, John Henry, WUSA 9.
We're hearing from the young teenagers Minneapolis Park Police detained after a misleading 911 call. A passerby videotaped part of the incident last Tuesday night at Minnehaha Park. It shows the boys handcuffed and on the ground next to a squad car. The next day, the chief of Park Police questioned the validity of the 911 call. Today, as Angela Davis shows us, the boys said the incident started after someone shouted racist comments at them.
When I was at the park, I was just trying to have a good day with my friends. And this white kid just came up to us saying racial slurs towards us.
14-year-old Aiden stood with his mother and two of the other boys detained by Minneapolis Park police officers last week. Police say a 911 caller described seeing the boys holding knives and sticks and that she heard one of them say he had a gun in his backpack.
When the cops came, they just pulled guns to our faces.
He told me to get down, and then he handcuffed me, and then he picked me up. He slammed me on the ground. I was scared that one was shaking, and I was scared that he was gonna shoot me.
Park police officers searched but found no weapons on the teenagers. They talked with witnesses who backed up what the boys described, a man who was taunting them.
I was scared. I thought that would be my last day of this world.
The local leader of the Council on American Islamic Relations is disturbed by the way Minneapolis Park police officers handled the situation.
While the gun was drawn by a police officer, it was obviously noticeable to the young man that he was trembling, which also showed the fact that this incident could have become, unfortunately, extremely tragic.
The families of 4 Somali American teenagers have reached a settlement after Minneapolis Park police officers handcuffed the boys and held them at gunpoint.
The Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board resolved discrimination charges filed with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights for $170,000. Reg Chapman has more on how these families are using the settlement to begin the healing process.
We're happy today to report that this incident is behind them, but they're still traumatized.
The incident began with a 911 call claiming there were 4 males holding knives and sticks near Minnehaha Falls. The caller also said one of them claimed to have a gun and that they were assaulting her boyfriend. Months later, the teens were still shook up over what happened when Park Police confronted them. Body camera video released by Park Police showed the interaction between officers and teens. Police found no weapons. Witnesses came forward and their account of what happened was different from the 911 callers.
This incident, we believe, we would not be standing here talking about it if it wasn't for the courageous, determined, and important witnesses and bystanders who not only recorded the incident, but also came to the aid of the young people.
Stay down.
The video is hard to watch, but Sarat Guffey, mother of Adam Guffey, speaking through a translator, says families are determined to let the settlement signal the beginning of healing.
And so obviously this incident was very traumatic, and to heal from it will take time.
Reg Chapman, WCCO 4 News.
The park board and the families involved all agreed that a settlement would avoid the cost of going to court. It also means that the park board and park police do not admit to any wrongdoing.
Happening right now, one Alabama director of public safety is defending his city police officers after they were pictured in an insensitive viral social media post. James Barber oversees the police and fire departments in Mobile. AL.com reports Barber said both officers, Preston McGraw and Alexander Oliver, are good officers who showed poor judgment. The Facebook post showed the officers holding a homeless quilt made of cardboard signs that were allegedly confiscated from the homeless community. Many civil rights communities in Alabama are calling for action. The Alabama chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations wants to ensure no member of the department engages in similar activity in the future.
We're getting new reaction to that news out of Montgomery today, this time from the Jefferson County District Attorney and a civil rights organization.
Soon after the deadly officer-involved shooting Thanksgiving night at the Hoover Galleria, some are angry with the outcome, but says it sparked conversation. Civil rights organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations say interfaith groups met with Hoover leaders and hope discussions will continue.
Even though there are lots of residents of Hoover who have not seen racism before this, it does exist, and they want the city and their leaders to be doing something about it.
Well, a veteran Sikeston police officer is placed on leave after that officer posted an anti-Muslim post on social media.
Chief McMillan confirms a Sikeston DPS officer left this comment on Facebook that reads, quote, "I get to choose whom I dislike, and it just so happens to be all Muslims and their beliefs," end quote. CAIR Missouri, a Muslim civil rights group, sent the comments to city officials requesting they take action. Faison Sayed tells me he's glad the department moved quickly.
We're grateful that they put this officer on administrative leave and are launching a full investigation to potentially have other disciplinary actions happen against this officer.
Chief McMillan says he's glad someone brought this to his attention.
It's real important that we know of the problem so that we can take the correct action. So many times officers go out and work at the community and they're by themselves, and if we don't hear about the complaint, it's difficult for us to fix a problem that we don't know about. So it's very important, and we have Muslims that live in this community, and we want to serve and protect them as well.
Continuing coverage tonight, a Sikeston officer accused of posting anti-Muslim comments on Facebook has resigned. That officer gave verbal resignation yesterday and turned in his gear this morning. The Missouri chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations says the officer's postings, including calling Islam a filthy religion and calling for all American Muslims to be deported.
This all happened after the Missouri chapter of the Council of American Islamic Relations sent the officer's post to the Sikeston DPS, welcoming an investigation into the officer's post.
Unfortunately, across the nation, we are seeing a rise in anti-Muslim bigots in general, but also a troubling trend of this occurring within law enforcement. I think it's very important that as America becomes more diverse, as people of all faiths call America their home, that we have police officers who stand for the integrity of the badge and stand for the integrity of their department and continue that public trust.
The officer is a 20-year veteran of the police force.
This latest protest isn't the first time we've seen fights break out on the streets of downtown Portland.
We continue to have some of the same people coming into our community to commit acts of violence.
But even knowing a small group of people come ready to fight hasn't been enough to stop it. That's why Mayor Wheeler says things need to be done differently. He's calling for civil rights activists, business owners, and community leaders to come together to figure out a solution. But he stopped short of giving specifics and instead said there are many ideas on the table that need to be discussed. One of those ideas, banning face masks during protests. That's something Portland Police Chief Daniel Outlaw suggested last week. The ACLU and the Council on American Islamic Relations are just two organizations raising constitutional concerns about the idea.
I think that the Bureau has fundamentally not understood how to properly counteract these groups. And instead of relying upon proper authoritative sources, They're just trying to create new things without understanding the implications for what that will have.
Portland police are investigating a threatening message on the Facebook page of far-right group Patriot Prayer. The post threatens to burn down offices owned by the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR for short. CAIR leaders reported the post to Portland police. CAIR says this hateful comments like this are more than troubling.
It is worrisome. It's not something that we want to say that we're going to get used to. We're not going to normalize it. It is out of place. We have to be cognizant that these things are not okay.
CAIR recently got Patriot Prayer banned from using a crowdfunding site for fundraising. They think that's what appears to have sparked the post. Now, we did reach out to Patriot Prayer. It said the threat is problematic and the post has been taken down. CAIR does not have a physical office in Portland, so there's no specific building that can be targeted. Even so, police are taking that threat seriously.
This morning, an activist group is calling on the Phoenix police chief to fire the officers involved in this volatile confrontation outside that of Phoenix apartment complex.
The Arizona chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations says police need to address deep structural issues. The group says the alleged shoplifting incident should not have led to a dangerous and violent response from officers.
Was there any type of violent act that was taking place during this act? And the answer is no.
Imran Siddiqui, Executive Director of Arizona's Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, watching the surveillance footage for the first time. Here you see a little girl walk out of the Family Dollar with a doll police say no one paid for. Police also claim the footage shows a man stealing a pair of underwear. Get out the car! The alleged shoplifting video released after this video went viral over the weekend, showing officers pointing guns at the family, shouting profanities, and kicking a man in custody.
Are you not apologizing for what happened there? Are you retracting what you're saying there? Everybody is entitled to due process.
Siddiqui says he doesn't want an investigation to drag on, and he doesn't want Chief Williams to stop there. Siddiqui points to Facebook posts revealed just a week ago, posts attributed to Phoenix police officers promoting racism, bigotry, and violence.
We need to address these deep structural issues.
It is unclear if officers involved knew Ames had a felony charge pending for ag assault against an officer.
Court documents show Ames was charged last month with 2 felony counts of aggravated assault against 2 police officers. The charges stem from Ames' arrest about 6 in the morning last Halloween in downtown Tempe. Police said he was behaving erratically after his vehicle was involved in a collision. Ames was twisting and flailing at the officers, tried to kick one officer in the groin, and took several swings at the other. One officer said Ames tried to grab his gun. Ames was tased twice.
Dude, come over here. You're getting hit by a car. Alright, bro, I don't trust you. You don't trust me? I don't trust police, bro. Too bad. Now you're in this situation. I always harassed by police, bro, all the time, bro. I paid over $4,000 tickets, bro. Why? Driving tickets, bro. Bro, I don't even... Dude, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. When I smoke, bro, I don't, because I don't. I used to a lot. Marijuana card? Huh? You have a medical marijuana card? Yeah, can I see it? The person have, yeah. But you don't have it? I'm just saying, bro. I've been being honest with you, bro. Why I know. You asking me questions and stuff now. I'm asking if you have a medical marijuana card.
Is that your car? Yes. Okay. You have damage on your car? Yes. Where is it? On the driver's side. Okay. Right there? Alright. Do me a favor. Let's pull your car into the gas station here, so that way we're off the roadways Monday.
I just turned 22.
Yeah, I got damage on his car.
I just turned 22, man.
I got damage on his car.
Okay. Well, I'm about to go, bro. Where's my ID at? No, you're not going anywhere. I'm not under arrest, bro. Can you get my ID? You're detained. You're not free to go. No, I'm not detained. Don't tell me what you are and what you're not. Can you tell me the grounds? You can't tell me the grounds, bro. It's late. It's late, bro. It's late, bro. Don't do that to me right now. It's late. Don't do what to you right now? Don't be trying to box me in, bro. It's late. You're not making any sense right now. It's late. No, I'm making a lot of sense, bro. Please, sir. Can we go to over there? No, hey, do not detain. No, hey, do not detain me. Yeah. Do not detain me. You got him. Oh.
He just tried to kick me in the nuts. Okay. He reached for my gun. I'm sorry, no, I didn't. Broke my nose. Well, you broke an officer's arm, so... No, I didn't. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Record this, please. Please, can y'all stop? I'm sorry. My thumb's all jammed up. I'm sorry.
We need to address these deep structural issues.
This call for increased law enforcement is directed more towards greater Minnesota. The Council on American Islamic Relations is calling on police to boost security for Eid, while Jaylani Hussein doesn't know of any specific threat.
Seeing a great deal of bile, particularly on social media, people who are really upset the fact that Muslims are even here. We're starting to see this to be somewhat of a vulnerability that is being presented, and we do not want to take on any risk. Law enforcement play a key role in making sure that their presence helps do that.
Our Jeff Wagner is live downtown tonight. Jeff, talk about the added security. Is it because of the sheer number of people that'll be there?
Frank, while they are expecting at least 20,000 people tomorrow, the request has more to do with concerns about hostility towards Muslims.
Our top story tonight, a Clifton man is in custody for threatening Patterson's Muslim police chief.
News 12's Keith Kaczynski in Patterson with more on this story. Keith.
Yes, barriers like this were set up here at police headquarters in Patterson because of serious threats made to the city's newest police chief because of his race and religion. Now the man alleged to have sent those threatening text messages has been arrested. But this isn't an isolated case of threats against the Muslim community in Patterson. On this website forum on barenakedislam.com, threats were made to local mosques in Patterson following the city council's recent first vote, allowing all faiths to use an exterior call to prayer. Representatives from the Council on American Islamic Relations weighed in on the recent post with a statement saying, "Our CAIR New Jersey office called on the FBI today to investigate an online threat that suggested blowing up mosques in Patterson. Like the violent threat made against Patterson's Muslim police chief, we hope that law enforcement takes this latest threat very seriously and investigates accordingly."
And good evening. Thanks for being here with us. The FBI cuts ties with the Muslim community's largest advocacy organization, and there's a chapter right here in Oklahoma. Tonight, News 9's John Jordan spoke to the people on both sides.
Well, Jen, CAIR held one of its largest fundraising events tonight and tell us the FBI's comments are hurting its efforts to improve relations with the community.
We have no formal relationship with CAIR because of concerns with regard to the national leadership.
It's a statement by the director of the FBI that is having national implications, including here in Oklahoma.
We were instructed, we being the 56 FBI field offices, to sever formal relations with CAIR.
The public announcement by the FBI comes as CAIR's Oklahoma chapter held one of its biggest fundraising events of the year tonight.
We have members of many different churches here. We have members of the University of Oklahoma here. We have members of law enforcement that are coming. We have members of the armed services that are coming to this banquet to recognize CAIR's work.
Will the FBI be here?
Well, the invite was made, and we'll see if he shows up.
The answer, not likely.
If it's a meeting sponsored by CAIR, you will not see me there or any member of my staff.
Something Awad has struggled to understand.
And there was never anything that connected CAIR to anything illegal. If there was something that connected CAIR to anything illegal, they would have been prosecuted.
But this man, Ghassan Alashi, a board member of CAIR's Texas-based chapter, is serving 65 years in prison after a federal court found he funneled nearly $12 million to the terrorist group Hamas. A court case that also named CAIR as an unidentified co-conspirator. A big reason the FBI says they have cut ties to CAIR. The group says the decision has had a negative impact on their efforts to sway public opinion.
It does hurt in some senses in trying to do a lot of our work as community outreach.
And despite not having a formal relationship with CAIR, Finch wanted to make very clear the FBI does have a good working relationship with the Muslim community here in Oklahoma. Jen?
All right, John, thank you. Now, despite having good relations with the Muslim community, the head of the local FBI worries our state's law banning Sharia law could hurt those relationships. Now, that law has been put on hold by a federal judge.
Attacking, defying, and deploying American law enforcement against its own citizenry are some of the main activities of the Council on American Islamic Relations.